telling me how much he enjoyed the work we do as well. We had a lot in common in a lot of different ways. He's from the Northeast. He's originally from Connecticut. He's worked in hip hop. It was a really great conversation.
It's pretty cool that you did that show. I think kind of what we're going to get into today with the main topic. I think people believe that there's some sort of weird beef maybe with the shows because we don't align 100% politically, but
well, what's really interesting in talking to Kalanchi, which I appreciated, is that like our show, even in his show, no one aligns 100% politically. There's a diversity of politics amongst the people on the show, just like on our show. So this notion that there's like an ideological consensus, even amongst guests on different channels and networks, is wrong in and of itself. And I wouldn't understand why anyone would vote. I think that there are people who want to create the illusion of beef because that is what is selling now in the left media. And there's nothing that will get people more thirsty for clicks than seeing beef between black left media content creators. That would just like, oh yeah, XYZ's beefing with XYZ. Who are you with?
I mean, shit, I'll say it. I feel like a lot of people want, especially black media in this space, to sit in a certain place for them, which is black stuff. Like, you can talk about black stuff, but I can't really take you too seriously if you talk about other things other than black stuff.
You think that you think that people who are outside of black viewership have an opinion that people who are in either black left content creator space or black political content creator space should be or are only relegated to talking about black political or social phenomenon? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Teray Reed is a historian. Ask him about World War II. You could, but he never gets asked about World War II unless it's about like, well, tell us about what Negroes were doing in World War II.
But Teray Reed would also admit that he considers himself an African Americanist, and he's not ashamed of that.
Yeah, but he also could talk about World War II.
I agree with you. But the thing is, though, he will admit to you that his specialty is 20th century interwar black historical phenomenon.
He can say historical phenomenon. He can. He does.
Oh yeah, I've had long conversations with Torre about Vietnam, World War II. I've talked to him about the Soviet Union. I've talked to him about stuff.
But Pascal, I can talk to you about non-Negro stuff.
As a matter of fact, most of the stuff we talk about is non-Negro.
It's non-Negro stuff. But that's what I'm saying. It sits, and I'm not. It sits in a certain place for a lot of people.
Well, let me tell you. Can I interrupt? As you know, we did the Wilmer Leon show, and by the way, I'm almost absolutely sure I got the name of his show incorrect. I will correct that in a matter of seconds. But I did Wilmer Leon's pre-record on Wednesday, which is airing today at 11 a.m. to noon, so it's over already. I hope some of you got a chance to check it out. I was on Wilmer's show for an hour. Wilmer is a political scientist, got his PhD from Howard University, knows black politics. We didn't mention a single thing about any type of black politics, except for maybe at some point we talked a little bit about Haiti. Most of the show was talking about foreign policy, multipolarity, what's going on between China brokering a deal between Iran and Saudi Arabia, and things of that nature. Inside the Issues is the name of Wilmer's show, channel 126 on Sirius Radio. I suggest people listen to his show. Wilmer is a phenomenal brother. Does not spend his time just talking about black stuff mostly. He talks about all types of global affairs. And I would argue that he has a black left perspective. I don't think that he would put himself in an ideological box, whether it be Marxist, Leninist, or anything else. But he clearly has like an understanding of class capitalism and a critique of all of it. And the brother is brilliant, and I really enjoyed being on the show. But it was not really just stuck on you know, black shit.
I mean, because black shit. I mean, I woke up this morning, and usually for these Saturday shows, I'll be a little super, maybe too transparent. Usually for these shows, I find a news story to break into first before we get into the topic, and I really wasn't prepared. I was prepared to talk about what I wanted to talk about, but it was hitting me on such a personal level that I didn't really feel that comfortable until I really flushed out a lot of ideas to discuss it because of some of the things I was seeing in my reading and what I was going to write about, which was a follow-up on a story we covered a few weeks ago about the Skid Row Housing Trust, and then this idea about Black people wanting more police in their areas and it being kind of a false notion. And it's always interesting to me because when I see these people talk about what Black people really want, A, they're never Black, and B, they never live in these areas. And I find that fascinating. So, kind of back to the whole point of like, who gets to write these narratives? Who gets to tell the story? Do you really want to listen to the people? Or do you want to listen to what you think is a smart person talking about said people?
And which Black people are you talking about?
The poor ones, the ones like me.
Well, the thing is though, right? And we actually talked a little bit about that on Black Power Media. By the way, Wilmer Leon is on Sirius XM. He's not on Black Power Media. Someone asked that question. But the point I was going to make is that as someone who primarily comes to media as a writer, journalist, if you will, writing about Black political phenomenon, Black political history, and Haitian history, Haitian politics, I actually have no problem writing about Black political phenomenon because I know that I write and discuss those phenomenon in a way that very few people who talk about race and Black issues do, which is focusing on class, the role of political economy, and capitalism. And I also try to do justice to, the legacies of Black political thought and tradition. So my position is that I don't think there's anything wrong with being a commentator in Black media spaces and talking about Black issues if you're doing it in a way where you are not pandering to preconceived ideological notions of what is, quote unquote, the way Black people look at things.
Yeah.
For example, there are certain media personalities that you and I know of, we will not name names, who pander, who literally pander. There's almost kind of like a Chitlin circuit of Black thought.
Well, would you agree that there is something to be made, and Tucson, I would love to get your opinion on this as well. When you pander to a certain pathology, especially when you're using Black trauma porn, like a friend of mine, we were talking this morning, and she was going to an exhibit at a museum that was showing like these sculptures and paintings of like dead Black kids. That's kind of gross. And, showing the effects of systemic racism and da-da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, this ain't like the lynching museum. This is some, whoa. Like I had no words to describe it because I had just watched a news story as I was actually typing out the script for the show today. I just watched a news story about a young man, a 30-year-old man in Houston who had attempted to rob a taco joint in like the hood in Houston. And he came in with a gun. There's cameras that showed it. And he was like, everybody down, everybody empty your pockets. Give me your wallets. People are throwing out their wallets. And one dude's fidgeting. And as the guy walks around with the gun again, the dude that's fidgeting pulls out a gun himself and pumps 9 bullets into the dude. Luckily, he didn't hit anybody else. He hit the guy and then walked over him and shot him one more time. Went to grab the guy's gun. He killed him, of course. Went to grab the guy's gun and found out it was fake. And you see the man in frustration yell, fuck, it's plastic, it's fake. He throws it. He goes through the guy's pockets. He takes out everybody's wallet. He throws it out on the table. He goes, everybody get your money. and then he leaves. He ended up turning himself in. The police aren't going to press charges. The man that did this had criminal history. He was literally on parole for beating his wife. And he had just got out of jail some years prior for being in a car with some people that killed someone in a robbery. It's like, whoa. And they interview the guy's mom, who's extremely upset, and she's apologizing for her son. She's frustrated that her son got murdered this way. The whole thing to watch is just real traumatic. And one thing the mom said was, she goes, when my son went into jail the first time, he came out a different person. He was trying, but he really came out a different person. And this is something that people like Chris Hedges talks about, kind of really in-depthly on a real personal level, because he works in a prison. And I think if you work in a prison or you work with people that have been in and out in that level, you definitely understand that it doesn't take much to get into the system. And it's really, really hard to get out, not just physically, but here, because of either what happened to you inside. You don't have to be raped to be emasculated in a prison. And 30 years old, nobody wins in that situation. But I'll if you guys have something to say about that.
Well, that's a tragic situation. I mean, it's horrible. I mean, violent crime in urban environments for Black and brown communities is real. It's a real problem. And contrary to the perception, the majority of these people who are in the carceral system, who are locked up, it's usually a consequence of violent crime. And of course, there's a correlation between violent crime and poverty and totally fractured, obliviated spaces where there are no healthy structural institutions, familial or otherwise. But the question becomes exactly how do you create realities in these criminally vanquished communities and spaces where you can bring back some level of wholeness to people, to make them able to have healing and functional lives. And I think that requires something more than simple sloganeering like defund the police or abolish the prison. It takes doing something we talk about on the show all the time, not to get Marxian, changing the ideological superstructure of the society. The base way in which people view reality in America has to change. Why is it that America, having close to in excess of $20 trillion GDP, supposedly the richest country in the world, why is it that we are so violent? Why is it that we have so many people in prison? Why is it such a brutal country? Is it a consequence of the history in which this country has dealt with poor communities, otherized communities? Is it a consequence of the way our political economy is rooted in a sense of kind of rugged individualism and not actually creating support structures that provide a more healthy social infrastructure? What exactly are the phenomenon? What are the ideological, social, some would even say cultural phenomenon about American society that breed, particularly in poorer communities, and not even exclusively poorer communities, violence?